let's continue. So now we are going to return to our data controller. And so what we want to do now is we want to be able to load all of our game data, which is currently set up in the data controller here. We want to load this all from our JSON file. So the process, and eventually once we write our editor script, we're going to be able to save it as well. So the process that we're talking about here is the process of serialization. So serialization is the process of converting an object into a stream of bytes in order to store the object or transmit it to memory, a database, or a file. Its main purpose is to save the state of an object in order to be able to recreate it when needed. The reverse process is called deserialization, and that's from MSDN. So basically what we're doing is we're taking a set of data, an object, right? In this case, it's going to be a game data type object, and we're turning it into a string of JSON. We're taking all of its public variables and writing them as text into a JSON file, which is called serialization. And then later, when we want to load that data back in, we're going to deserialize it and use them to populate the fields of our game data object. So JSON, or JSON, often pronounced as JSON, is JavaScript object notation. And it's a data interchange format that's parsable by many different programming languages, including C, Java, Python, JavaScript, etc. So it's a format that you can use that's fairly simple and human readable to output data out of your application, read it back into the same application, or read it back into a different application that's written in a different programming language. So it's a nice sort of interchange format. And so we are going to be, the next step that we're going to do is we're going to create in our scripts folder a new C# script, which is going to be called game data. And this is going to be the class that we're going to be serializing and deserializing. So this is just going to be a data class. It's going to have no variables, but it is going to have the system.serializable attribute, right? Which we need if we want to be able to serialize it. So within this class, all we're going to have is a public array of round data called all round data. Now, if you watched the first session, you will remember when we originally wrote the data controller that we had the same type of variable in the data controller, and this is what we were using to edit all of our data in the inspector. So now, instead of making this public and editing in the inspector, we're putting it into this class so that we can serialize and deserialize it to JSON. And you could actually just serialize the array itself, but we're putting it in a class in case you want to add any other data or whatever. So let's save this game data. We can close this. That's all we need. And now, before I move on to the data controller, so the next thing that we're going to do is write the JSON loading for the data controller. But before I move on to that, let me just take a look at the chat and check how you guys are doing.